back to Plots, Hooks, and Books with Jeevan and Kenzie. Today we will have a very special episode like no other.
We'll be discussing one of our favorite books of all time,
Hidden Figures
by Margaret Lee Shetterly. Today we'll be having two very special guests.
These two 8th graders that attend King Abdullah Academy have a great passion towards books, which is why we thought we'd invite them to our podcast. Please give a warm welcome to Wassan and Manal! Hi guys, welcome! We're so excited to have you on our podcast. Why don't you guys start by introducing yourselves?
Hi, I'm Wassan. I'm an 8th grader in KA, and I really connect to the book, and I really like the book Hidden Figures because it changed my perspective on colored women and how they were considered mathematicians and colored computers.
Hi, I'm Manal, and I'm really excited to talk about this book because it provided an insight onto the lives of women who are less talked about but had an impact on our history.
All right, thank you so much for introducing yourselves, but now let's get right on into it. What did you think about the book and what were your overall thoughts?
I thought the book was very informative and it really changed my perspective on how the women in our past affected our rights and how we can work today in the United States.
My overall thoughts on the book is it changed my perspective and showed me how much colored women are overlooked and how much they struggled to survive.
I definitely agree with the points you guys mentioned because I also noticed that throughout the book it really did highlight how colored women were treated in history, which actually, moving on to our theme, segregation or racism, we're going to cover more about how the book really showed how they were treated and how racist everyone was towards anyone that was colored.
I'm really glad that you brought up the theme because I felt like it was a very prominent subject in the book. So what do you guys think about it?
I agree that racism should be the theme because most of the book is mostly about racism, and a quote that really stood out to me is there had always been African American employees at Langley, but they worked as janitors, cafeteria workers, and assistants and groundkeepers on page 15. I think this quote is related to the theme because it shows that the few opportunities colored Americans had were only so much less, and it's degrading than white Americans.
I really agree with what Wassan said, and I think the fact that African Americans were always given the positions with less respect also relates to one of the main issues, which is barriers to education, where you can see that they're usually going to colleges with less respect and less education. And I think that's really important to discuss in the book because it really relates to our current society, where people who are less privileged have a harder time going to college and getting a higher education than people who are more privileged and have more money or were born in families with a lot of respect.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, black people were not given the same rights as white people, especially in terms of education in colleges, and that sounds a lot like a main issue. So why don't we build on that and mention maybe some more issues that you may have?
Yeah, that's a good point you mentioned it, and it relates to how normalized sexism was, which will be my next point. Women would be called computers because if they called them mathematicians, they would have to pay them more money. And there's a quote on page 13, but few of the women were granted the title mathematicians, which would have to put them on equal footing with male employees.
That's a great point, and to build onto my previous point about barriers to education, another quote that can relate to that is on page 40 where it says, most had graduated from black colleges like Hampton Institute, the Virginia State College for Negroes, or Arkansas Agricultural, Mechanical, and Normal College, which is more proof of how they were sent to different colleges than the white women.
I think the points you guys mentioned were really good, and they really do show the main issues that were mentioned in this book and how history has changed. And what do you guys think about the motifs? What are some of your thoughts about the motifs?
The motif that I think was also really important is intelligence, because they use knowledge and intelligence as a form of power and survival in a world where they didn't really have much else as an upper hand. It was really their only weapon, along with their determination for many colored women.
Wait, guys, I forgot to talk about symbols. One of the symbols was the World War II. For many African Americans, World War II was an opportunity to make a better life for themselves and their families. Black men enlisted in the military in large numbers, and in the 1800s, after the Civil War, the government passed laws that ended slavery and granted full citizenship and voted rights to African Americans. Airplanes is another symbol, and it showed them about like freedom and progress and dreams. Airplanes was also the vehicle of their future, and it helped them throughout the centuries.
Wow, thank you guys so much for giving me a better understanding of the book's theme, motifs, symbols, and honestly all about the book and the author's message. That's it today. Thank you for tuning in to Plots, Hooks, and Books with David and Kenzie. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, we're so happy to have you here. Oh.
What the hell?
Very...
One of our favorite books of
all
time.
I really like the book. Wait, what am I supposed to say?